The truth doesn't destroy people. It simply reveals who was already shaking underneath it. When a chosen one finally speaks, it doesn't echo like ordinary talk. It shifts the atmosphere. It rattles the floorboards of every room where your name was whispered, twisted, or used as currency. And right now, as you step into your voice, entire communities are reacting the way unstable buildings react during an earthquake, trying to hold themselves together while pretending nothing is happening. And here's the funny part. All you did was tell the truth, literally. No lightning, no fire raining from the sky, just honesty. Yet somehow, your truth has these people running emergency meetings like you broke international law. That's the thing about authenticity. It exposes the fragile architecture of people who built their reputations on pretending. Psychology has a fact for this. When someone has lied about you for long enough, the moment you speak your truth, their brain interprets it as a threat to their survival, not their life, their image. And believe it, nothing sends a rumor-based society into meltdown faster than realizing the person they tried to silence now refuses to shrink. Your enemies aren't panicking because you're aggressive. They're panicking because you're accurate. They're not restless because you're loud. They're restless because you're consistent. You've become the living contradiction to everything they said behind your back. And now they're scrambling like people who know the audit is coming but can't find their receipts. It's wild how your truth, a truth you had to earn through pain, reflection, and growth, has become their biggest inconvenience. The moment you opened your mouth, they realized the quiet, underestimated one they thought they had under control is now narrating the story with clarity they never imagined you'd gain. So here we are, the chosen one finally speaking, and the community acting like you just flipped the entire board game off the table. If they're shaking, it's not because you're dangerous. It's because you're done playing small, done swallowing lies, and done letting their version of you be the only version in circulation. And honestly, watching them scramble is almost entertaining. Almost. Number one, you're triggering people because you expose the conversations they hoped would stay hidden. What unsettles people about you isn't your confidence, your glow-up, or even your comeback. It's the unnerving accuracy of your truth. You speak in a way that hits the exact corners of situations others tried to distort. It's almost unfair how effortlessly you reveal the parts they wanted erased. When you talk, you don't shout, you don't attack, you don't dramatize. You simply say the truth as it is. And that alone is enough to make certain people start sweating like their secrets just developed legs. For a long time, they got comfortable believing you would never reach the level of clarity you have now. They expected you to stay confused, doubting yourself, or disconnected from your own power. That version of you protected them. This version of you exposes them, not intentionally, not maliciously, just by being honest and fully aware. The more self-aligned you become, the more their past behavior looks suspicious next to your present maturity. You're triggering them because your truth dismantles everything they built against you. They said you were dramatic, yet here you are, speaking calmly with facts. They said you were unstable, yet your presence is measured, grounded, and unbothered. They said you were the problem, yet their reactions make it obvious who's actually losing control now. What you reveal without even trying is the gap between their lies and your growth. The community panic doesn't come from fear of what you'll do. It comes from fear of what you'll say. They know your version of events is the only one rooted in reality. And the more you speak, the more their stories start to fall apart. You're like a walking truth teller without even meaning to be one. You don't expose people deliberately. Your story just contradicts theirs without effort. That's why they're uncomfortable. That's why they whisper. That's why they monitor your every move. You carry the one thing they hoped would never surface. clarity. And clarity, when delivered with confidence and no exaggeration, is the one force that makes every hidden conversation feel suddenly unsafe. Number 2, your presence reminds them of every lie they've ever told about you. The most powerful thing about you isn't that you speak your truth. It's that you exist in full clarity while everyone else is trapped in their own deception. Your very presence becomes a mirror they can't look away from, reflecting every distortion, every rumor, and every half-truth they spun about you. They aren't panicking because you've done anything dramatic. They're panicking because you forced them to confront the reality they hoped they'd buried under their lies. Simply by being yourself, fully awake and unapologetic, you shine a light on all the false narratives they built around you. Every lie they whispered, every exaggeration they painted, every rumor they spread suddenly loses its weight when you walk into the room. People panic, not because you're threatening them directly, but because your authenticity makes them feel exposed. Their carefully constructed stories crumble effortlessly under the weight of your existence. You don't have to argue, prove, or defend anything. Your life, your energy, your alignment with truth speaks louder than any accusation ever could. What makes this even more unsettling for them is the timing. They spread their lies when you were quiet, unsure, or still figuring yourself out. They assumed you wouldn't reach the clarity you now hold, that you would remain a convenient character in their narratives. But the moment you stand fully realized, all their smoke and mirrors are useless. You are living proof that their words never had power over you. They only exposed their own insecurities and moral shortcuts. The community feels it too. People who once nodded along to the stories now hesitate because your presence makes everyone aware of the real you, the one they underestimated. The lies they told about you become loud in the silence of your confidence, echoing back to haunt them. And that is why you create chaos without action, why your enemies flinch before you say a single word, and why your presence alone has become their worst confrontation. Simply existing as your true self dismantles every false assumption they ever made. Number 3, they're not afraid of your voice. They're afraid of your memory. What terrifies your enemies isn't what you're saying right now. It's what you remember. Every detail, every slight, every betrayal or hidden motive is stored in your mind like a ledger they never expected you to keep. People assume forgetting is human, that time dulls perception and that wounds fade. But not yours. Your memory isn't just recall, it's precision. And precision is something they can't manipulate. They panic not because you threaten them in the present, but because your memory holds the evidence of every time they tried to manipulate, deceive, or undermine you. When you speak, it's not just your words. They see the weight of history behind them. They feel it because your memory acts as a spotlight on their past behavior, illuminating every lie, every rumor, and every act of sabotage. The truth isn't a weapon for you. It's a reflection of reality they wanted hidden. And when someone who remembers clearly steps forward, the illusion they built around your life shatters in an instant. That's why their reaction is so visceral. They didn't anticipate that you'd not only survive, but also carry everything they hoped you'd forget. Memory makes you untouchable in ways they cannot understand. No amount of denial, gossip, or manipulation can erase the facts you hold. Every time they attempt to gaslight, every time they spin stories, you already know the truth, and that alone destroys their power. It's subtle, but deadly. Your presence reminds them that their history with you isn't just written in whispers and shadows. It's alive, remembered, and undeniable. This is why communities panic when you speak your truth. It isn't the message that shakes them, it's the knowledge behind it. You are the living record they never wanted someone to consult. And the fear in their eyes is not about what you will do, but about what you already know. Your memory doesn't judge, it doesn't exaggerate, it simply exists. And in existing with clarity and remembrance, you dismantle their control without even raising your voice. Number 4, you undo their narratives without even trying. The power you hold isn't in what you do, it's in what you are. You don't have to argue, fight, or explain yourself because your very existence contradicts every story they told about you. Every lie, every distortion, every rumor they spun to make you look small, weak, or unreliable collapses the moment you simply live your truth. You don't need to confront them. The proof of their false narratives is in the way you show up fully, unapologetically, and unshakably. They thought they controlled the story, but you've been writing it all along, silently, through your actions, your energy, and your growth. They panic because you don't even have to try to dismantle what they built. You don't raise your voice, you don't call them out publicly, you don't even need to address the rumors. Each success, each calm reaction in the face of chaos, each moment you choose alignment over drama, tears apart the foundation of their lies. People who plotted your failure now scramble to patch their narrative, but you've already moved beyond the frame they tried to fit you into. Their stories are hollow because your life contains the real plot line, the one they couldn't imagine or control. The irony is exquisite. They spent time, energy, and words shaping a version of you that didn't exist, only to be confronted by the actual version, stronger, clearer, and wiser than they ever predicted. Your growth and authenticity make their falsehoods meaningless without you even lifting a finger. It's like watching a carefully stacked deck collapse under gravity. No intervention is necessary. You didn't attack them, you simply lived, and that act alone is revolution enough. What's most unsettling for them is the ease with which it happens. You undo their narratives effortlessly because your life is aligned with truth, not fear. They can't anticipate your next move, can't manipulate your reactions, and can't rewrite history fast enough to match reality. And that is why your enemies panic quietly behind the scenes, while the world continues to witness the undeniable proof. You were never who they said you were, and nothing they do can ever change that. Number 5. Your growth made their excuses obsolete. The most terrifying thing for people who tried to hold you down isn't that you succeeded, it's that your success exposes their weakness. They built excuses, rationalizations, and stories to justify why you couldn't or wouldn't, and they repeated these to themselves so often that they almost believed them. But your growth doesn't negotiate with anyone's narrative. Every step you take forward, every skill you master, every calm decision you make is a living refutation of the lies they told to protect their own insecurities. Your progress doesn't need validation. It simply exists, and in doing so, it renders their excuses meaningless. They panic not because you're ahead. They panic because their stories about you no longer work. They once whispered that you weren't capable, that you weren't ready, that you would never reach a certain level. And those whispers were safe for them, comfortable and convenient. Your evolution demolished that safety. Their framework for understanding you collapses every time you demonstrate competence, poise, and consistency they never predicted. Growth is silent, yet louder than any argument. They don't need to watch you fight. They just need to notice that you moved past the limitations they set in your name. It's deeper than envy. It's cognitive dissonance. Their minds struggle to reconcile the person they knew with the person you've become. All the rules they imposed, all the judgments they passed, all the doubts they seeded, they become absurd in the face of your reality. And the panic, the agitation, the subtle scrambling behind their eyes comes from the realization that they are fully exposed. Your growth is proof that their power over you was always imaginary. What makes it truly unbearable for them is your calmness. You don't brag, you don't prove. You simply exist and expand in your life while their excuses shrivel silently around them. Every achievement you reach, every boundary you enforce, every moment you stay aligned with your truth is a demonstration that the narratives they relied on were never yours. They were theirs, and you've outgrown them entirely. Growth doesn't ask permission, and in your case, it doesn't negotiate either. Number 6. Your self-awareness is a weapon they can't defend against. The moment you become fully aware of yourself, your power shifts in ways others can't anticipate. It's not about arrogance, it's not about shouting, and it's not about proving a point. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you will and will not tolerate. This level of clarity is like a silent force. They can't negotiate with it, they can't manipulate it, and they certainly can't control it. Self-awareness isn't something you show off, it's something they feel. And that awareness makes every lie, every manipulation, and every attempt to destabilize you completely ineffective. People panic because they relied on your confusion, your hesitation, or your lack of insight to keep their own stories alive. They thrived on the assumption that you wouldn't see through their schemes, that you wouldn't notice the patterns, the subtle sabotage, and the hidden agendas. But once you understand yourself and your surroundings fully, all of that crumbles. You don't even need to fight. Your presence alone, aligned with truth and awareness, exposes everything they thought was hidden. And that is terrifying for anyone who built their influence on deception. Self-awareness turns you into a natural disruptor. You recognize manipulation before it reaches you. You see intentions without needing them to be spelled out. And you navigate chaos without losing control. And while you move through life with this clarity, your enemies scramble because every tactic they used against you now fails in silence. There's no overreaction on your part, no argument, no confrontation. You simply exist, fully aware, and that is enough to dismantle their sense of power. The beauty of self-awareness is that it can't be stolen, faked, or taken away. They cannot touch it, cannot dilute it, and cannot distract you from it. And because it is rooted deeply in truth, it makes them feel exposed, powerless, and unprepared. Your self-awareness isn't just an advantage, it is the invisible weapon they never saw coming and will never be able to defend against, no matter how much they try. Number 7. You disrupt their comfort because you refuse to play the role they assigned you. From the moment they decided who you were supposed to be, they believed they had control. They assigned roles, created expectations, and painted a version of you that fit their narrative. They needed you to stay predictable, manageable, and limited, so their own lives felt orderly. But you refused to stay inside the box they built for you. You refused to shrink yourself to make them comfortable, and in doing so, you became the disruption they never prepared for. Your refusal to conform shakes the very foundation they depended on. They panic because control only works when someone complies. Your defiance isn't loud or aggressive, it's simply present. Every time you act in alignment with your truth, make choices that reflect your values, or pursue growth they didn't anticipate, you undermine their narrative. The version of you they thought they could manipulate no longer exists. Your independence forces them to confront a reality they didn't plan for, a reality where their scripts, assumptions, and expectations are irrelevant. The fear they feel isn't about your actions, it's about their inability to predict you. People are often terrified of unpredictability in others because it forces them to question their own stability. They thrived on the illusion that your behavior, your reactions, and your life were something they could manage or anticipate. But your refusal to play their role exposes the fragility of their control and the limits of their influence. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to fight them to prove this. You don't announce your rebellion or make statements of defiance. You simply exist on your own terms. Your life, your choices, and your alignment with your truth are constant reminders that no one can dictate who you are. Every step you take outside of the role they assigned is a silent demonstration of freedom and power. They scramble because their comfort depends on your compliance, and you stopped complying. Your disruption isn't intentional, it's inevitable, and it terrifies them because they finally realize that the person they thought they knew is no longer their story to control. Number 8, you make them confront the fact that their access to you was a privilege, not a right. For years, they acted as if you owed them your attention, your energy, or your loyalty. They treated your presence, your time, and your patience as entitlements, never realizing that every moment you offered was a gift, not a guarantee. Now, as you step fully into yourself, they're forced to confront the uncomfortable truth. They never had a right to you, only a fleeting privilege they took for granted. And this realization terrifies them more than any argument or confrontation ever could. The panic comes from the sudden shift in power. What once seemed theirs to command, influence, or manipulate is now entirely beyond their reach. Every word you speak, every boundary you enforce, and every step you take away from their expectations reminds them that they've been operating under a false assumption. They acted like you were theirs to control or shape, but in reality, they never were. That truth hits harder than any loss, because it exposes not only their arrogance, but also the fragility of their ego. What's infuriating for them is that your independence doesn't require confrontation. You don't need to prove your value or justify your boundaries. Your life, your choices, and your growth are enough to show them that nothing they assumed about you was accurate. Every time you move in alignment with your truth, you silently communicate the reality they tried to deny. You are not theirs to command, and they are powerless to change that. And the more they scramble to regain influence, the more obvious it becomes how misplaced their entitlement was. They whisper, gossip, and strategize, hoping to reclaim what they never had, but you continue unbothered. Their panic is the natural response to facing their own overreach. Your awareness of your worth, your refusal to be taken for granted, and your confidence in your boundaries all combine to remind them that their access was always a privilege, and privileges can be revoked. You don't revoke it with aggression, you revoke it with presence, and that is what makes their scramble inevitable and, frankly, humiliating. Number 9, your honesty exposes the cowardice in people who only fight behind closed doors. The thing about truth is that it doesn't hide, and it doesn't negotiate. When you speak your truth openly, it forces people who thrived in shadows to reveal themselves, or at least try to scramble to cover up their own weakness. The panic you cause isn't because of anything aggressive you do, it's because your honesty shines a light on behaviors they counted on staying invisible. People who attack behind closed doors, spread rumors in secret, or manipulate quietly depend on silence, secrecy, and the assumption that no one will call them out. Your courage makes those tools useless. Your honesty doesn't just disrupt lies, it dismantles their comfort. Those who relied on deception to feel powerful suddenly find themselves exposed. Every lie, every scheme, every whisper of manipulation looks weaker when contrasted against the unwavering clarity of your words. And because you are consistent, grounded, and unwilling to compromise your integrity, they cannot predict you, control you, or undermine you the way they used to. The panic comes from realizing that their invisible strategies no longer function. What makes it even more unsettling for them is the simplicity of it. You don't over-explain, you don't embellish, and you don't need validation from anyone else. Your honesty is effortless and natural, which makes it impossible for them to respond with their usual tactics. They flounder, scrambling to regain a sense of control, while everyone watching can see the contrast between your integrity and their desperation. Your truth exposes cowardice because it requires no performance. It doesn't need an audience, applause, or agreement to be effective. It simply exists, and in existing, it reveals those who could never match it. People panic not because your honesty is loud or dramatic. It's because it is unshakable, visible, and undeniable. And when someone has relied on secrecy and manipulation to survive, facing someone who speaks openly and fearlessly is enough to make them panic, scramble, and question everything they thought they knew about power. Number 10, you dismantle manipulation by refusing to react the way they need you to. Manipulators thrive on predictability. They study reactions, exploit emotions, and count on people responding exactly as they expect. The moment you refuse to give them what they need, anger, fear, guilt, or confusion, you strip away their power. They panic because all their tactics are built on control, and control only works when someone plays the part they wrote. By choosing not to react, by staying centered and deliberate, you dismantle their entire strategy without even needing to confront them. Your calmness becomes a mirror to their chaos. Every ploy they attempt, every subtle jab or hidden agenda bounces back on them instead of affecting you. They panic because they're used to seeing people bend, stumble, or retaliate. And you don't. You're steady, you're aware, and you refuse to feed the drama they designed for you. That refusal alone breaks their illusion of authority. You don't give them the satisfaction of a response, and suddenly, all their effort looks futile. The power of this is invisible, but undeniable. People who manipulate count on reactions as proof that their influence works. When you withhold the reaction, they are forced to confront the truth. They never had power over you in the first place, and that realization terrifies them more than confrontation ever could. They scramble because their usual tactics are ineffective, and they have no alternative. You've removed the script, and in doing so, you leave them exposed. What makes this even more devastating is that it doesn't require aggression, confrontation, or performance. You simply operate in alignment with your truth and your boundaries, letting your presence and behavior speak louder than their schemes. The panic comes not from fear of what you will do, but from the collapse of their control. They can't manipulate what doesn't respond, and nothing is more frustrating for someone built on manipulation than watching their carefully constructed web unravel without you ever lifting a finger. By refusing to react the way they need you to, you silently dismantle the very foundation of their power. Number 11. Your emotional independence is ruining the power structure they tried to build over you. The scariest thing for people who thrived on controlling you isn't your success, your words, or even your presence. It's your emotional independence. For years, they counted on your reactions, your insecurities, and your attachments to keep themselves in a position of influence. They built a power structure where your emotions were their leverage and your vulnerability was their tool. But now, as you stand fully aware and emotionally untethered, that structure collapses silently, leaving them scrambling to find any foothold at all. They panic because the rules have changed. When you respond only to your truth, when you make decisions based on clarity rather than fear or expectation, their influence evaporates. Emotional independence isn't just strength, it's a shield and a weapon. It makes you unpredictable in the most disarming way. They can no longer provoke, manipulate, or destabilize you the way they once did. Every attempt to control you hits a wall because your emotions belong entirely to you. What makes it worse for them is how simple it looks from the outside. You don't have to fight or justify yourself. You don't need to explain your boundaries or prove you're calm. You simply exist as someone who cannot be moved by their tactics, and that existence alone dismantles everything they worked to maintain. The panic in their eyes comes from realizing that the very thing they relied on, their assumed influence over your feelings, no longer exists. Your emotional independence exposes the fragility of their power. They were never powerful on their own. They were only powerful as long as you allowed them to manipulate your inner world. And now, with your autonomy intact, they are left with nothing but frustration and confusion. Every attempt to assert control only highlights their impotence, while your grounded composure highlights your liberation. By taking ownership of your emotions, you've removed the leverage they depended on, and in doing so, you've shattered the power structure that was never really yours to begin with. You don't just survive, they panic because you thrive without their permission. Number 12. You're proving that their opinions never had the power they assumed they did. For years, people tried to define you, label you, and control the perception of your life. They whispered, criticized, and judged, believing their opinions could shape your reality. But the truth is, opinions are only as powerful as the value you give them. And when you step into your truth, when you live authentically and unapologetically, their carefully constructed judgments fall flat. You prove, without a single argument, that their voices never had the influence they assumed they held. The panic you create comes not from aggression or confrontation. It comes from the undeniable realization that all the time and energy they spent trying to sway you was wasted. They built their power on the assumption that their opinions mattered, that their narratives could dictate how you felt, who you became, or how you acted. But every choice you make in alignment with your truth shatters that illusion. Their words echo against a wall you built with self-awareness, clarity, and confidence. What's infuriating for them is that you don't even need to announce this truth. It's inherent in your life, in the calm consistency with which you operate. Their opinions no longer move you because you've anchored yourself in reality, not in the versions of you they tried to sell the world. Every act of integrity, every success, every moment of composure is proof that their judgments were never binding. They were just noise. And the fear, the subtle scramble behind the scenes, comes from their desperate attempt to reclaim a power that never truly existed. They might try gossip, manipulation, or confrontation, but none of it works because the foundation they assumed they had, your compliance, was never theirs to begin with. You've risen above the illusion, living a life defined by your own standards rather than their imagined authority. In doing so, you reveal the uncomfortable truth. Their opinions were never dangerous, never controlling, and never real. And watching them panic quietly as they realize this is one of the most satisfying proofs of your growth and independence. Number 13, you're living a reality they told others you'd never reach. The most unsettling truth for people who doubted or undermined you isn't just that you're succeeding, it's that you're achieving what they confidently claimed was impossible for you. For years, they spread stories, rumors, and predictions designed to make everyone, including themselves, believe that you were limited, incapable, or destined to fail. And now, by simply existing in the reality they swore you could never create, you've invalidated every lie they told, every expectation they set, and every attempt to control your narrative. The panic comes from the sheer contrast between expectation and reality. They believed they had you figured out, that your potential had boundaries they could define. But boundaries are only real when you accept them, and you've proven that you don't. Every success, every calm decision, every moment of composure and clarity is a statement louder than any argument. You have surpassed the limits they imagined. They didn't anticipate your growth because they never measured it. They only measured their assumptions. And assumptions, as you've shown, are fragile when faced with truth and persistence. What makes this even more striking is that your reality doesn't need their approval. You didn't have to convince anyone or fight to prove them wrong. Your life, lived fully and authentically, is evidence enough. And that evidence is unbearable for them because it highlights how misplaced their control and judgments always were. They're not panicking because you're extraordinary. They're panicking because their words, their plans, and their manipulations meant nothing against the truth of your life. You've created a reality they can't touch, can't rewrite, and can't control. Their panic is the result of seeing a version of you alive and thriving that they insisted could never exist. And that is the ultimate disruption. You've taken the narrative they tried to cage and turned it into proof of your freedom, your growth, and your unstoppable presence. Simply by living, you've become the contradiction they never prepared to face. Number 14. You show others what courage looks like, and your enemies can't compete with that. Courage isn't loud or performative. It isn't about grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. True courage is quiet, consistent, and unshakable, and that's exactly what you embody. By standing firm in your truth, by refusing to bend to expectations or manipulate narratives to appease others, you model a level of bravery that cannot be faked or challenged. This courage doesn't just affect you, it radiates outward, inspiring those who witness it, and exposing the insecurity of those who counted on your fear. Your enemies panic because they realize that their attempts to intimidate or control you no longer work. You've become untouchable in ways they can't understand. People scramble because courage disrupts the entire dynamic they rely on. Manipulation, rumors, and threats thrive in an environment where fear dictates behavior. The moment someone refuses to react with fear, everything those who depend on it begins to crumble. Your courage forces them to confront a reality they didn't plan for. You are not only resilient, but unshakable, and your energy inspires others to question and challenge the false authority they thought they had. You are no longer just a target. You are a standard, and that is terrifying for anyone built on control. What's most powerful is that your courage isn't performative. You don't need recognition or applause. You don't argue or prove yourself. Your bravery exists in your choices, your boundaries, and your unwavering presence. And that is unbearable for those who thrive on fear and uncertainty. They see their influence evaporating before their eyes. By simply living boldly and unapologetically, you demonstrate what it means to be untamed by manipulation, untouched by judgment, and unafraid of truth. Others see this courage and begin to awaken, while your enemies scramble because they cannot compete with the force of someone who fears nothing within themselves. You are a living lesson in bravery, and your enemy's panic is just the echo of their realization that they will never measure up to your authenticity. Every word, every choice, and every step you take in alignment with your truth sends ripples through the world around you. You are not just surviving, you are dismantling every false narrative, every manipulative tactic, and every limiting assumption placed upon you. From exposing hidden conversations to living a reality they claimed was impossible, you've become a force that cannot be ignored. Your presence alone unmasks cowardice, invalidates opinions, and transforms their panic into proof of your power. You've shown that courage, self-awareness, and emotional independence aren't just traits. They are weapons that redefine the rules, leaving manipulators scrambling while inspiring those who witness your rise. You've proven that the world cannot control a person who knows their worth, owns their story, and refuses to shrink for anyone's comfort. Every lie they whispered, every expectation they set, every attempt to confine you, none of it can withstand the gravity of your authenticity. By simply being yourself, you've become the benchmark for courage, clarity, and truth. You've made it clear that their access was a privilege, not a right, and in doing so, you've shifted the balance of power without aggression, without performance, simply through presence and unwavering alignment with who you are. This is more than triumph. It's a demonstration of what happens when someone refuses to be small, refuses to comply, and refuses to be silenced. It's a reminder to everyone watching that truth, authenticity, and courage carry a weight that nothing else can match. Your journey isn't just personal. It's transformative, not only breaking chains for yourself, but also showing others the path to freedom, resilience, and self-sovereignty. If you found this message powerful and resonating, don't just leave it here. Hit that subscribe button to join the movement. Like if it spoke to you. Comment with your thoughts or experiences, and share to inspire others who need to see this truth. Your presence here matters, and together we amplify the voice of authenticity. Stay blessed always.